Let's bring in Huffington Post senior political reporter and politics managing editor Amanda Terkel and White House reporter David Nakamura. Good to see both of you. Good morning.
Hi, Chris.
Amanda, Congressman Gowdy is insisting this is not going to be a political witch hunt, but what's the risk here for the Republicans?
Well, it will look like they're going too far. I mean, today the House is considering the formation of this Benghazi committee, a contempt vote for a former IRS official, and a $156 billion tax break that isn't really has no chance of going anywhere. The White House has said it's going to veto it. So right now it looks like that what they're doing is trying to gin up sort of excitement amongst their base in front of the 2014 elections, and even to get out maybe ahead of a possible Hillary Clinton run, since she was Secretary of State during the Benghazi incident, get out in front of the 2016 election. So it looks like what they're doing is political and maybe not what the American people want to be focused on.
David, is the sense at the White House and among Democrats that you're talking to that this is about energizing their base, or is there concern that goes beyond that?
No, I think that's the argument the White House is making. It's certainly the one that Jay Carney has made the last few days at the White House briefing when he's been asked about this. The problem for the White House, of course, is twofold. One, every time they're forced to answer questions about this, it takes them off what they really want to be talking about, which are, are issues like minimum wage, immigration, and other things on the president's agenda. The other problem for the White House, which is what has sort of led to this, is that, it looks like they have not really released all the relevant documents, and that's the case Republicans are making that you just heard Trey Gowdy make, is how did this email be discovered by an outside group in a separate lawsuit when you've had all these other investigations that the White House keeps pointing to as thorough and exhaustive, that the White House didn't turn over this Ben Rhodes email that sort of opened up this new round of concern among Republicans, whether it's politically motivated or not. And so that's the question, and I think the White House sort of has to look at themselves to blame on that. Possibly they should have maybe gotten out front with a lot more of this information before, but as long as those things keep being found, it keeps allowing Republicans to make the case. They haven't gotten to the bottom of it.
Let's bring in Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin and a member of the Foreign Relations and Budget Committees. Senator, good morning.
Morning, Chris.
Here's part of the argument on the other side. There have already been 13 congressional hearings, 25,000 pages of documents released, 50 briefings on Benghazi. So how do you make sure that this panel doesn't cross what even Republican strategist Steve Schmidt said this morning is a very thin line between a serious investigation and a kangaroo court?
Well, Chris, you can throw out the numbers of pages or numbers of documents, but we actually need the relevant documents. And I think that's been what's been revealed with Ben Rhodes' email. Why wasn't that provided initially? Could it be because there is a cover-up? I mean, haven't politicians learned that it's the cover-up that really gets them in trouble? And that's what we're seeing in this administration. And trust me, this is about getting the truth. Chris, I had a father of a young Marine come up to me early after Benghazi, kind of fingered my chest saying, you have to get us the truth. I need to know whether my son is basically under the command of somebody who would abandon the age-old tenet in the military of leave no man behind. So this is really about getting to the truth, which the American people deserve to know.
So you don't believe that there's a political motivation about energizing the base for 2014 or getting at Hillary Clinton for 2016?
From my standpoint, it's about getting to the truth, which the American people are demanding. We hear it all the time. Now, maybe it's coming from our base, but the people I talk to in Wisconsin, Benghazi continues to be a big issue because they've been lied to. The American people don't like being lied to, particularly by their president and by their Secretary of State and by members of the administration. That's what's happening.
The Secretary of State said just yesterday that he's not afraid of the truth. In fact, it's in his best interest to have the truth out there. Let me play for you what John Kerry had to say yesterday.
We'll respond because we have absolutely nothing to hide whatsoever, and I look forward to complying with whatever responsibilities we have. I think everybody needs to take a hard look at, and sort of measure what's been already put out there versus where this effort is going, and you see a very partisan response on the Hill.
So he will comply with the House subpoena, but as one of his spokesmen pointed out yesterday, look, nobody ever asked him. Nobody reached out to him and said, will you come and speak to our committee? Instead, they issued a subpoena. Was that the respectful way to go about this?
First of all, Chris, I wasn't referring to the current Secretary of State. I was referring to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Chris, I just want to ask you a question. If you had been Secretary of State at Andrews Air Force Base, welcoming or honoring the remains of those 4 dead Americans, and really being given the task of offering America's condolences to those survivors. Would have you done that with genuine human compassion, just offer those condolences, or would have you done what Secretary of State Hillary Clinton did, planted, perpetuate the cover-up of her dereliction of duty when she basically said to Tyrone Wood's father, we're going to arrest that video film producer. Now, I just want people to put yourself in the position of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and cravenly turn that moment, a moment that should have been of sincere human emotions and compassion, and turn that into political cover-up. I think that's outrageous.
Let me switch to Ukraine. This morning, Vladimir Putin said Russia's going to do it all it can to resolve the crisis and take the most positive approach to international peace efforts. He's calling for a delay to the East Ukraine referendum set for Sunday. Now, I know you attended a classified briefing last night. It focused about these concerns in the upcoming May 25th election. What can you tell us?
Well, first of all, this is spinning out of control. And I think what is also pretty obvious is something that I think this administration is just denying the reality that Vladimir Putin is not going to respond to words or threats of serious consequences. He's only going to respond to action. Right now, Vladimir Putin is in the driver's seat. He's getting everything he wants because he can take all these actions, all these provocations, with impunity because he's not really paying a price for it. I mean, the stock market, the currency has actually increased since sanctions were imposed. So my point to the administration is we have to actually act. We've got to make Vladimir Putin pay a price. We have to change his calculus. Nothing the administration is proposing or doing right now is changing Vladimir Putin's calculus, and that's unfortunate. I wish it was working, but it's not. We have to recognize that reality.
And let me get your take on last night's primary results. Big wins for the Republican establishment. Do you think that this signals, if not the death knell for the Tea Party, at least a weakening?
Listen, I'm kind of independent of both groups. I ran my own race in Wisconsin. I'm about trying to save this country. I think that's what conservatives, Republicans are all about. I think, quite honestly, the media is making too much of the split between the establishment versus the Tea Party. We have patriots throughout this country that are concerned about the path that America's on, and we are realizing that we have to win elections. And so I think actually what we're finding is kind of a unification of the conservative movement, the Republican Party, because we recognize the only way we're going to turn the situation around, put America on a sustainable path, is if we win elections, take a majority in the Senate so we can retire Harry Reid, his one-man dictatorship here. So I think it's just Republicans, conservatives becoming practical and starting to elect people that can win the final election.
Senator Ron Johnson, thank you for coming on the program.
Have a great day.
Amanda and David are back with me. We just heard from John Boehner. We had been waiting for him to come to the microphone, and here's what he had to say about Benghazi.
Line was crossed last week. It was crossed in two places. One, when it became clear that the White House played a more significant role in the developments of how they were going to describe this, certainly more than had been disclosed thus far. And then secondly, when it became clear that documents were turned over to a private organization that, frankly, have been blocked in terms of giving them to us. It was time for us to bring this together into one place and to focus our efforts. This is all about getting to the truth.
That clearly, Amanda, is the mantra that we're hearing now from the Republicans. You just heard it in a very specific way by Ron Johnson. You just heard it from Speaker Boehner. Where's this going?
Well, the problem is I don't know what truth they're trying to get at. I mean, if the truth is that the White House tried to shape talking points for Susan Rice, I don't think that's really a scandal. I'm sure every Republican politician talking about Benghazi also has talking points. Every politician who goes on TV does. You try to shape the facts in the most favorable way. Susan Rice's facts were incorrect that day, but the intelligence community has said that they were based on what they had at the time. So I'm not really sure where they're going with this, if they think that the Obama administration knew that this attack was going to happen. I mean, I just don't see where it's going. So I think that again, the fact that Senator Johnson was talking about Hillary Clinton so much, they are trying to use this as a political issue to energize their base.